But yeah, 2 or 3 minutes just to make sure we have a good amount of viewers come in. We don't want anybody coming in too late and missing all of the introductions of our artists. So thank you for being patient. We'll be ready in just a moment or two. While we're waiting, we can also, in just a second, we can take a look at the agenda so we kind of know what to look forward to in this webinar today. So go ahead and hang tight and we will start the show soon. Hello, everyone. Thank you for your patience and welcome to the webinar. My name is Miss Caitlin and I'm a teacher here at CalColor who is the host of the webinar. And I'm going to be kind of talking everybody through all of the questions. We have an exciting night for you guys planned. Of course, we're talking to two very professional art industry workers who currently work in the video games industry. So it's very, very exciting. But now we can go on to the agenda so we can take a look at what we have in store for today. So first we're going to do all of the introductions, meet our two wonderful artists. Then we're going to begin the interview section where we start asking some very insightful questions. It's going to be quite good. In about an hour, we're going to take a small break to collect your questions. So if you have any questions for these two professionals, you are feel free to enter those in the chat. And then during the break, we're going to select some of the questions and we'll see if they can answer them. So, and the last part is answering your questions. So like I said before, feel free to enter it into the chat. All right, so we can go ahead and get started with the next part here. First, we're going to introduce ourselves. So we are CalColor, of course. We are the largest education institution in the San Francisco Bay Area. We help students from younger kindergarten level to senior students for their AP portfolio. We do courses in creativity. For all ages, but specifically for our high schoolers and our upper level class, we do put a heavy emphasis on our portfolio development to get them ready for their college experience. We have a wonderful variety of experienced faculty with personalized guidance here. And Cal EDU, we also have a nonprofit. It's founded by us at CalColor in 2020. So that's just a little bit about us. So as we're just going to run through this real quick, this is just a quick look at our courses. If any of you are interested, again, we host all students from ages 4 to, of course, their senior upper levels. So this is just kind of a preview of all the different classes through the different age groups that we have. So we offer all sorts of different portfolio classes as well as digital. So we offer quite a bit. And here is some of our amazing student work. So these are our upper level students. We pay special attention to our students' portfolio. We also enter in national competitions, but our students here are talented and we work together to ensure that they are having a really good standard set of skills while also maintaining a creative mindset. So now we can talk about Josh, one of our wonderful guests, one of our wonderful professional artists. Instead of me rambling on about him, I'm going to go ahead and he can go ahead and give us an introduction about himself.
Cool. Thank you, Caitlin. I'm Josh Sunga. Thanks for joining. It was really cool to see that student art page. So you guys are pretty good. You guys are just in high school, so. But anyways, I work at Firewalk Studios. They're a new studio, and I kind of got lucky. It's kind of like a indie studio that has AAA funding, so it's a wonderful job. But I want to talk more about myself in the sense of what I admire in other artists. So, and it's kind of been a chronological journey for me as well of just, that stubbornness that I always liked as a younger artist, just thinking about being an artist and taking that seriously and just you know, just caring about it so much that you're just gonna do it, you know. So I've always respected that, and it's kind of a necessary thing you'll find is if you do want to continue in a more professional level, right? And then to balance that out, there's this sense of wonder, right? That I love about being an artist. I think if you just have that grit and that discipline to hone your skills, that's great. But if you're not having that sense of wonder as an artist and pushing boundaries, then you might find it's just not as fun. So, and then the last one, of course, is just joy. I've just been art's hard, and you need to work hard, and you need to try to be creative, and then just really learning to love what you do and just enjoying it. I'll just share one quick story. When I was in art school in college, I was showing my homework to one of the professors, and he wasn't impressed. But the one thing that he did say to me at the end, he's like, this isn't hitting the mark, but I can tell that just seeing this page that you drew, like that you really enjoyed it. And that struck me pretty profoundly because as a young kid, I didn't really think that you could see that on a page, right? And I held that moment pretty dearly, and it just changed the way that I wanted to make art. Like if my professor could see that on the page, even though my drawings weren't great, it was just it was so curious. It was like, oh, he could see that I really did enjoy making these marks. So yeah, those are the three things that really marked my journey and that I want to continue to aspire in my own life as an artist. So yeah. Oh, and this is nostalgic. Yeah, I'll just talk a little bit about the time I made this work. This was um after after I finished school. And I just took a whole year to take my time and really hone my skills. I think you guys will learn, and some of you guys know, it just art and getting good at it just takes a lot of time. So all this stuff just kind of came out of that one year, like around 2020. So it's pretty old work, but yeah, it's really fun to see. My intention for this work was like, you know what? I love sketching, I love concept art and design. I really want to figure out how to paint and what I like about painting and how I want to make art. And I'm sure we'll talk about that through the interview. But yeah, I love seeing this work, not because it's super awesome and that I did it, but like it was a really special time in my career development of just like what do I like and how do I like to make it? So super important.
Thank you so much, Josh. It was wonderful. Thank you so much. All right, Taylor, would you like to introduce yourself to our lovely audience?
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. This is a big privilege for me because I'm an educator. I teach online. It's one of my biggest passions. But yeah, my name's Taylor Olivas. As you can see in the picture, I love to go outside and plein air paint. But currently, I'm a concept artist at Turtle Rock Studios, and I do a lot of freelancing on the side as well. Right now, I'm doing a little bit of art direction with a small studio called Flash Kits. And in my free time, I just like to explore. I like to travel. It's one of my passions is to get out and absorb the world, take influence from the world, and hopefully bring that into my art. Um, but some of the past projects I've worked on are Spider-Man 2. I've done a lot of concept art, and like 3D modeling is a big part of my pipeline. So that's one thing I really try to emphasize to my students is to explore with different types of media, find different tools to make whatever art that you're trying to make. To me, I'm not a purist whatsoever when it comes to creating art. You know, like there's discussions about AI and all this stuff that we'll probably be talking about. To me, the tool is just a means to an end, and you're kind of the conduit for making the artwork and allowing yourself to express whatever you have in your mind. Um, but outside of that, oh, sorry about that.
Taylor, you're muted. I think you accidentally clicked.
Oh, sorry. I meant to mute that other person. My bad.
Yeah, just teacher instincts.
It's okay. Yeah, no, this is hitting the mute button. Um, but yeah, like Josh was saying, you kind of hit on the notes of like mastery where, it's a long journey, right? Like, we both had experience in the art industry, but it never ends. Like you're always going to be shooting for something greater. There's always going to be a bigger project you want to work on, and things are going to change. Your perspective on what you want to do is going to be changing. So um, that's one thing to keep in mind about being an artist or in any discipline is to always be striving for something greater. That's a little
All
bit about
right.
me.
And
Yeah, and
we
these are
see
these are
his
some of the
wonderful work. Yeah, so gorgeous.
thank you. Yeah, and this is, I think, a good example of kind of the artwork that I'm doing right now. So a mix of 3D and painting as well. But at the end of the day, it's all about having a good foundation and kind of putting everything into practice and bringing your taste to the table.
Excellent. Thank you so much. That was wonderful. So now we can kind of get into the Q&A section. So here's just the three categories. We're going to kind of go in order, though at the end, we might do some jumping around if there's any important questions that we missed. So the first is going to be industry insights and career development. And second, we're going to be doing the skills, portfolio building, and education. And then before our break, we're also going to be doing collaboration, networking, and future sustainability. So really insightful stuff. And a very fun treat is that we are actually, I believe Josh is going to be creating art in real time that we can watch while we answer these questions. So it's going to be amazing. But while we get all that set up, we can actually go ahead and get started. So in the category of industry insights and career development, we can start off with a really good ground question. So what exactly is concept art?
Taylor, feel free to chime in. Concept art to me is what I love about concept art is just designing everything. So obviously that's a general answer, but you can break it into characters and environments as are usually the main divisions there. And our job is literally to just primarily come up with cool ideas, I would say, and then secondarily to make it look great. So that's my romantic version of what being a concept artist is.
Yeah, I'd like to kind of second what Josh is saying. To me, like being a concept artist is being a good problem solver, right? And you're going to be dealing with people who are, they have a visual idea of like what's going on in their mind, but they can't put it on the paper. And that's kind of where you come in. You're kind of filling in the gaps and, bringing whatever that idea is to life. But it's not really a straightforward process all the time. Sometimes you're kind of shooting in the dark, but a lot of the times it's, going through the process of iteration and refining things to the point where it looks the greatest that it possibly can be. And, there's always the hindsight, at least for me, when it comes to delivering a project where you look back and you kind of kick yourself in the butt and think you could have done better. But I think that's just part of being a concept artist is knowing when to hand things off, when to trust your team and know that things are good enough.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. So another question kind of related to the first one is, which industries heavily depend on concept art and how does it shape their visual development?
Yeah, I'll take.
I'll go ahead,
Go
Taylor.
ahead, Josh. Sorry, my internet's a little laggy, so I'm a little bit behind on these questions. But yeah, I'll go ahead and answer that. But I think any visual industry, entertainment, obviously, but you also have, you have companies like Tesla and SpaceX where they're actually grabbing people from the game industry, like concept artists and illustrators,
Yeah, you gotta
and
make it look cool.
they need these people to pretty much, and a lot of the time it is problem solving. It's like, how are we going to actually accomplish something functionally, design wise, aesthetically? So it's expanding into every industry, really. Like even, um, I guess, like parts of graphic design, even like I've done stuff for marketing for Gucci, for example, and I use a lot of the skills I have learned from concept art to, deliver those marketing briefs.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually super exciting. Concept artists, like their skills can just really reach into many industries, but also the basic answer is like if you want to make TV shows, animation, Netflix or DreamWorks, be a concept artist, or you want to make video games, be a concept artist, so yeah.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much. And how has the demand for concept artists changed recently? Have you noticed any trends or any industries that are kind of in higher demand for concept artists as a whole?
The honest answer is no. So to be truthful with you guys, the industry is very competitive, right? So currently it is yeah, it's pretty competitive. Um, I know a lot of coworkers who are, I think as artists in general, always a little worried about job security, but we know back in 2020, industry was booming, everyone wanted to watch movies. So yeah, the tough honest answer to that is it is gonna be a kind of a fight. And you really gotta love it if you wanna try to compete in a professional level. So that's somewhat of a warning, but it's also like if that's motivating to you, then you should hopefully discern in yourself, like, yeah, I'm willing to pursue this fight so
Perfect. So kind of following off the back of that question, what kinds of projects or companies hire kind of recent grads? So how can students stand out for these roles?
yeah. Um, my first gig out of college was actually Netflix. So, and it was just they found me just through Instagram hashtags, which is, obviously I wouldn't bank your career on that. But it is the positive side to the fact that the industry is so competitive. Part of that is because it's so easy to put yourself out there and get seen, right? So there's that positive light, but you got to just make yourself look different. Really, I think just based off of the student art that I saw on the slide prior, I think a lot of artists can hone their skills, um, but you also have to hone your creativity. I think that's like that little edge that's gonna put you above other applicants, right? So, what do you think, Taylor?
Yeah, I think yeah, I can't really add much to that. I think that's pretty perfect, honestly. I think a big part of it too is also maybe being specific about where you want to go as well, kind of having that in the back of your mind, um, knowing what type of work you want to do. For me, it was environments, and that kind of clicked with me. For Josh, a lot of that's like the iteration of like creatures, props, and now environments that kind of expands over time. But finding that little seed that you can kind of cling on to, where you have a little bit of a comfort zone and you can really push that and explore outside of that once you've kind of mastered it in a way. Um, but I think that's a big part is like honing your creativity and bringing your taste to the table, like bringing your authentic self into your work, because at the end of the day, that's what they're hiring you for, is your perspective on things and your unique take on the world. So
That's perfect. Okay, awesome. Yeah, that totally makes sense because you, at the end of the day, are helping other people kind of express their ideas. Somebody who has trouble visualizing it. So, yeah, that absolutely makes sense to have kind of a broader kind of understanding. Um, so, kind of off the back of that question, so with AI and the new technologies growing, how do you think concept art changes, and what skills should students learn to stay competitive?
I'll let you answer this one, Josh, and I'll chime in too.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I got strong opinions. Obviously, I can't tell the future, but what I do like about AI and almost even like the fear of it is like can artists be replaced, right? That's kind of the fear. And but that's also the clarity there. It's like can can a robot replace your creativity and the experience that and that message that you want to put forth? If if you're a serious artist, hopefully, I mean, though you guys may be young, like hopefully you guys have a vision that you want to really share with the world, right? And I yeah, hopefully you guys have that conviction, right? Like, oh, um, can't really be replaced. When I think about how wonderfully made the human mind is and just how wonderful the process is of making art and just like, thinking about this question, I thought about things AI can and can't do, right? So AI can replace a pair of hands, like skill sets, but it really can't replace your mind or the life that you experience, So I really stand by that. If you have a vision, it just takes so much work and just like so many different unique experiences to really be able to refine that taste that, artists can use to really affect the world. Um, AI has a lot of power in like processing and producing a ton of work, and it can look great because it's fed great artist work, right? So yeah, I don't know if your goal is to push and even change culture. I wouldn't be worried about AI. It would be more of a tool that would help you push that. So
Yeah, and just from my perspective too, and like from one of my recent contracts, there was a big clause inside of the contract that said whatsoever, like whatever you're doing to make the artwork, you cannot by any means use artificial intelligence because it's predicated on sampling other people's information, other people's intellectual property. And at least for American studios who, abide by copyright law, if you get caught using artificial intelligence, at least now, like with the laws, you're going to be fined, you're going to enter lawsuits. So that's just a legal part of it that I think is going to be a gatekeeper for, AI being used for, creativity and, original content. And I'm at Lightbox right now, actually, and I was just talking to a creative director, and they actually experimented with AI, and the guy was just so mad at the results because, you know, in the concepting stage, you need to make sure that you can iterate and you can change things. And right now, at least, the tools just aren't there yet. Personally, I feel like AI is going to be a great tool for artists to help us stop doing the mundane things that take a lot of time and aren't as pleasing when it comes to creating stuff. Um, but it's going to change. So, um, you know, as a concept artist, if you think about it with first principles in mind, it's all about the soul. It's all about your experiences and how you bring that to the table. Um, and that's just my optimistic take. I'm not a I'm not a fortune teller. I
that
can't
was the
tell where this
future,
is.
Taylor.
I know I can't say, but I think it's gonna really remove a lot of the mundane things that we just don't enjoy doing, and it's gonna open up more possibilities to create. I think it's gonna really open up the floodgates to create stuff. Like the same thing I'm seeing with, for example, 3D in my workflow. Now I don't have to paint things in multiple angles and spend an entire day doing that. I can do that in 2 hours now and just switch a camera. It's just another tool for me to use. But I still can dictate how things look at the end. I still have that artistic license to put my own touch on things. I don't think it diminishes my artwork whatsoever. And I think the same thing will be the case for AI. If you decide to use it, there's also going to be the purists, like the fine artists who are using oils that are just going to say, no, like we're not going to do that. We're just going to, stick to the original traditional quality of artwork. So I, to me, I'm not too worried about it, to be completely honest.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It can be used as a tool, but it's also reassuring to know that there are protections in the industry to kind of just shield AI from just being used recklessly. So that's really, really good insight. We really appreciate that. So I'm gonna kind of merge two questions into one. So for entry level versus very senior established concept artist, this might be a trickier question because I know it might vary quite a bit for salary ranges for entry level versus senior, and what factors affect salary growth in concept art. And how can students increase their earning potential when they launch themselves into their career?
Hmm. Okay,
A tricky
well,
one, I know. I know
yeah,
it's tricky.
I'm just speaking from my experience. I would definitely, if you have the time, I would take your time so that your portfolio is as strong as it possibly can be when you're ready to start putting yourself out there. Then you'll get better opportunities or even be sought out, right? That's definitely where you want to be, where, they come to you. Um, and then, animation industry is a great place. They have the animation guild there, and that kind of that kind of locks in your rate for everyone for entry level, and it's actually pretty generous. I know at the time I got hired at Netflix, it was 45 an hour for freelancing, which that's pretty great for an entry level gig, right? So, and then from there, it's like, you get to learn like, okay, that's how much I was getting paid here, and then you just keep your rate, right? Um, so yeah, but we do know like different studios obviously pay different salaries and it does range. So, but yeah.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much. Do you have anything to add, Taylor?
Yeah, I think that's something where your skills are going to be your best friend. Learning more, becoming faster. I think it's a time thing as well. How do you buy back your time as an artist? Because if you can do things quicker, then that means that you can ask for a higher, hourly rate. Or like right now, I'm not even working on an hourly rate. I'm just kind of working off of bids. So it's like I have a month long to do a certain contract. It's like I could work 2 hours a day and practically do 8 hours of work for a project. That's my deliverable, for a freelancer. So, I mean, if you can learn how to scale that up, you could be making just as much as an entry level neurosurgeon. I know people that are making $1,200 a day, and as a concept artist, as artists in the industry. So the whole myth of starving artists is kind of obsolete. It's just a matter of having the skills, knowing how to do what you're specializing in properly, like working with the team. But I think the skill building is where you can really scale that salary. Um, so also another part too is knowing your worth, right? I know there's a lot of people that are just trying to get jobs right now, especially with them being so scarce. And what they're doing is they're undercutting themselves and not actually um, asking for what they're worth. And I think that hurts the industry as a whole. I know Josh talked about the animation guilds, like that's kind of like a union where there's protections with your salaries, but um, for games, it's not that case. So you need to fight for yourself, but you also need to prove that you can provide a certain amount of value to a client. So um, that's my take on it. But you can definitely scale up your earning potential, especially as a freelancer. You could definitely make even 3 to 4 times as much as someone on a salary as a senior artist if you're doing freelance.
Yeah, that makes total sense. It's so important not to undercut yourself in any industry, but especially in the arts industry as well, because um, for artistry, it takes a long time to practice and hone skills. And your skills as an artist are worth fighting for. So yes, absolutely do not undercut yourself. All right, so the good news is we got through the first section. We might roll back a little bit if we have a little bit of extra time, but now we can move on to skills, portfolio building, and education. So now we can go ahead and start with that. So I guess the first question for this new segment is going to be a really good one. It's, what skills do studios look for in entry-level concept artists, and how can students start developing them now?
Yeah, I'm gonna say I think as an entry level concept artist, primarily you have to have good foundations, right? You have to have really good foundations, but leading into that, having design skills where you can break down scenes, like also knowing like what is necessary to build games, or if you're trying to get into animation, what are the crucial parts that are needed as a visual development artist, right? You're going to need characters, creatures, environments, props is a huge one. Um, lighting keys, all this type of stuff. So, and this is going to be my opinion, but I think it's good to be a specialized generalist at the very beginning. Um, and this isn't a hard rule. I know there's people who are just specialized in characters and they're really good and they get their foot in the door just doing a single thing. But from my experience, kind of having a general idea on how to approach anything really kind of helps, because at least for entry level jobs, like independent games, smaller studios, outsourced studios are a really good way to get your foot in the door. And it's also a good way to get more experience, because some of these outsourced studios are working with the larger studios. They're just kind of vendors for these bigger clients. That's just my take. Also, too, if you don't have work, if you can't find work, make your work. Like, just make stuff. Make a game. That's what Josh and I did. Like we were about to graduate. Like, we were kind of like juniors, seniors, and we're like, dang, we can't find work. Let's just make a game. And we made a game, and that ended up getting us work just through showing people that we can work together and collaborate and actually solve problems and bring things to fruition. So
That's great. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I totally agree with Taylor. I'll just add one last note. Like, if you want to drop quick, there's a way to do it. Just, get into props or pipeline stuff and just do layouts and just show that you can do that basic job. But I would caution too, like, you don't want to make just getting your first job your goal. Like, you might just
yeah,
get stuck in that and just getting next entry level job after entry level job. You want to always keep pushing your look and what you bring to the table as an artist, not just, getting your foot in the door. But again, all that stuff's practical, but I see it all the time. Like, you want to set your sights a little further while staying practical, I guess. So, yeah.
That's
yeah. Can
perfect.
I
Yeah,
add? Sorry, I just want to add something else too, just like on that note with Josh. Yeah, like in your portfolio, do the stuff that you want to do, right? Don't do stuff that you think you have to do, because you're gonna start getting work where you don't enjoy it. So that's it. That's all I was gonna say.
yeah, that makes sense. So, even if you're having like in the process of looking for jobs, it's always important to keep building your portfolio or start different projects, because
Mhm.
employers kind of love seeing that. They love seeing like the different projects and you kind of like utilizing different programs, kind of how you created your video game. Yeah. So, while you're looking for jobs, just always keep building and always keep practicing and doing new material. Yeah, so important.
Definitely agree.
So this is kind of a more short, kind of a sweeter, more technical question. So, what are some technical skills that students should kind of start looking into or start mastering now if they're the older students? So, drawing wise, or even like digital software, kind of like those kind of trends that we see in the concept art world. So, what do you think is the different kind of software that the industries are kind of like after now?
Yeah, it's all over the place. Like for me, I feel like I'm a jack of all trades when it comes to, the type of artwork or the type of tools that I've been using. But like for students, I think it's good to, again, focus on fundamentals. But when it comes to the types of digital tools, Photoshop seems like it is an industry standard. There's like Procreate, but I've also been using Blender, which is a 3D program. And I've noticed that that has been pretty pivotal in my own workflow because I can help production artists down the line because concept artists, you're just bringing ideas to fruition, but things have to get made, right? And if you're using Blender, things are already built out in the mesh, and you can hand that off to another artist, which has been invaluable, especially for the work I'm doing right now. A lot of it's just, 3D blockouts, and I could hand it off to someone and they can start building immediately. So um, it's kind of bridging the gap between visual development and actual production. So
For
learn
sure.
as much as you can.
That totally makes sense. Yes. Utilize the time to kind of learn different softwares. I think it is quite of a broad spectrum. So the next question would be, how can students show versatility in their work while maintaining a unique personal style?
Yeah, Josh, you can answer this one. I think you
It's
have
a
a good
little bit of
idea.
a harder one.
Yeah.
Yeah, just make that your goal, right? So if you want your work to look unique, then I don't know. I don't know if this is a good answer, but just make that your goal. I do think students can get distracted with important things, right? Like learning different tools, learning your fundamentals, but it is this loftier thing of developing your taste and discerning what you like and what you want to offer. Um, and it may be a little simplistic, but it's like, what are you prioritizing in your work, in your portfolio? Are you, you can just with that little anecdote I mentioned, like with my professor seeing that I enjoyed my work, I think I can look at certain portfolios and see that this student really enjoys studying fundamentals, or this student loves anatomy. And those aren't bad things, but in concept art, to me, the king is creativity and just coming up with awesome ideas, right? And our medium is art, so you need to learn those technical skill sets. But you really gotta kind of dig deep and figure out what you have to offer the world, like how you think about the world differently, how you see the world differently, how you filter your thoughts and what you hear, what you see, right? So that will make you versatile and unique if you keep focusing on that main thing while doing your art.
Perfect. Thank you, Josh. I know that was such a kind of hard question to grasp.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna kind of
it's hard
combine
to
two
do.
questions. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Do aspiring concept artists need a college degree to succeed, or can self-taught artists thrive just as well? So, and kind of going along with that is, what advantages does formal training provide?
Yeah, I think at this point there's so much resource, like so many resources online and outside of like traditional education that you can get. But like for me, I went to Laguna College of Art and Design with Josh, and I feel like that did give me a little bit of a leg up when you're considering your networks. For me, I grew up in a very, very small town with no arts whatsoever. So I did have to get out and I did have to do that formal education, put myself into, a pool of other like-minded people. But education's becoming a little bit more decentralized, meaning that it's becoming more available and there's not just one person that's like an authority saying that this is how to do things. Information's being spread a little bit more, like what you guys are doing at CalColor. Like for example, like you guys are allowing students like in high school to learn at a very early level and get a leg up. I didn't have that. I wish I had that. So in that sense, like the formal education does help if you can have access to it, right? Um, but I know people that are, doing online education through workshops or, unaccredited sources where, they're just fine. But I think a big part of you know, the industry is actually, being integrated with people. Like the community is a huge thing, right? Um, so if you have to go to a school to get that, then by all means do it. But yeah, just know what resources are available to you, right?
Yeah, full disclaimer, and again, just repeating, like we went to school together, Taylor and I. I ended up dropping out. That said, so I don't have a degree, but I still learned everything I learned in that school, right? And it was actually beneficial for me to be a dropout because I didn't have to focus on graduating. I got to focus on the classes that I thought were going to help me hone my taste and my skills, right? So, and what I wanted to do. So that's what I like about the art industry. There's this honesty in it that is your portfolio. And that's kind of your ticket to the job, right? It's like this is what I can do. The studio really is not going to care about whether you have the degree or not.
Yeah. Yeah. I've never been asked for my degree or my credentials. It's all about the portfolio. It's a meritocracy. It really is. So
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. I think just the art industry is super unique from a lot of job industries, kind of in general, is that the portfolio is the main heart of what you're providing to a potential employer. So,
yeah.
regardless of a college degree or not, if you put the work in and use resources to kind of really build your technical skills, your understanding, your creativity, then you really do have a solid chance of getting into the industry, college degree or not. So I think that's a beautiful thing about the art industry is that formal training certainly does provide its advantages, especially for students at a younger age. But yeah, there's a lot of wonderful resources out there that are just ripe to take advantage of. So it's a wonderful time we live in for that, for sure. So
Oh yeah.
the next question now we're going to go on is, speaking of formal classes, we're kind of looping back to that topic, is what specific courses, like drawing or digital painting, do you think are the most helpful, or workshops are the most helpful for students pursuing a career in concept art? So kind of what are the most important traditional foundations, would you say?
Yeah. I'll let you
I'll,
go, Josh.
yeah, I'll twist the question a little bit because, again, um, what's most important for me and the industry in general is your creativity and your ability to generate cool ideas and then execute on that. So there's tons of great painting classes and drawing classes that you guys should be taking. But again, at least in art school for me, like the class that I repeated like 5 times was concept sketchbook and visual development. And that's all about putting your ideas on a page and figuring things out. And it's pretty messy, right? And it's not kind of what you see on the portfolio, but that's to me that's like the fundamentals of concept art. Just being able to sketch. Take some, if you can find teachers that you respect and you like their work, try to find some classes where it's just about coming up with cool ideas and it's just simple pen and pencil or paper, whatever it is.
Mhm.
Though that's the most important for me.
Yeah. And just to chime on that, concept art is definitely different from illustration in that sense, right? Where you have to get comfortable with churning out ideas, being able to iterate on ideas and have, various um, different outcomes with your sketches. Like I remember we were taking that class concept sketchbook and we would have to do, I think, like one entire sketchbook every 3 weeks. And that's on top of other classes as well. So um, again, just being able to create a bunch. And I think by doing that, you can go backwards and find the classes that you need to create that result. And for me, it was plein air painting for environments, obviously the fundamentals of drawing and painting, and the 3D skills that I know now with Blender. So just to keep it very simply, just um, yeah, knowing how to iterate, come up with ideas, being inspired, bringing that to the table, and then finding the skills that you need to actually like, bring that stuff to life, bring that vision to life.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. So we are on to our third section. So the collaboration, networking, and future sustainability. So this is a lot more kind of career based than it is creativity
Mhm.
based, but it's still very important to kind of understand how this works. So the most important question from this section is pretty much all about networking. Is how important is it to attend industry events like conventions or workshops for students looking to connect for professionals in concept art? How important is going through all that?
I think it's super important and it's pretty topical because I'm at Lightbox right now, and um, it's so important to get out there and meet people and show your work. Because I know as artists, we tend to be a little bit more introverted. I'm definitely introverted. So, kind of getting out of your comfort zone, showing people your work is such a crucial thing. Like not being timid about it, like throwing it out there, asking for help, right? Um, most of the jobs I've gotten were because I asked someone who was in a position I wanted to be in for guidance on my portfolio or just a single piece that I was trying to nail. Hey, Bobby, can you give me some feedback on this? And, I applied it, and eventually that ended up with me working on Spider-Man. And that's just one instance, right? But I think it's important to not only like share your work, but also help those as well. Like I've been getting into education, and even some of my students are throwing jobs my way now. And it's just one of those things where you have to also help people too. I don't think you can be entirely selfish about it. Like trying to network to get a job is not going to be, the best thing. You actually want to make friends. You want to make like meaningful connections in this industry. Be an easy person to work with. Like be a nice person, or rather a kind person. I think is better.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, just develop relationships and like develop as an artist. And I think if you take that seriously, you will meet friends and they're also striving to get jobs and they'll loop you in. I've gotten freelance just handed down to me from my professors. Um, and then yeah, like the job I have now is so random. It's just through meeting another artist and we became friends, right? And then she referred me, right? Um, so yeah, definitely network, like go to those big events, but the reason those are useful is because you develop relationships with different artists who trust you and would be willing to recommend you to a studio, right? So you don't want to just go to an event and just like meet a bunch of people. You do want to go to drink and draws, go to like figure drawing and meet them. Try to meet them in those organic ways where you actually get to know that
Hmm.
person, right? And it really will. I actually like all my professional works just come out of nowhere, kind of like that. Not once. I haven't applied to studios. It's just like happened very organically, and so it actually is super important. You gotta be able to enjoy other artists' company and because you're going to be working with them. So
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, the art industry as a whole is pretty collaborative altogether. You're going to be working with people constantly in teams, or if even you're working contract work, you're still probably going to be working with somebody else. So it's really important to gain a little bit of those people skills. And as artists, like nothing's cooler as an artist than getting to see other artists work and kind of talking about how cool being an artist is back and forth, right? So befriending artists is
Hmm.
actually pretty easy. If you have a love of art, then you can just share appreciation with each other and share tips. And yeah, it's pretty great. I haven't met a single artist who was like, oh, can I see your sketchbook? And they're like, no. So yeah, artists love exchanging kind of information and kind of taking a peek at each other's work. So yeah, I think it's super important to do all of that networking. All right, so we're down to our last questions here. This is the audience specific questions. So for high school students, for parents, and for the college students in our audience right now. So we'll start with the important one for high school students is, what can high school students do now to build a strong portfolio for art school or internships in concept art?
Draw a lot.
Yeah, draw a lot. Get your fundamentals up. Like, yeah, just the basics from a high school point of view. Like, yeah, do the life drawing, observational stuff. Kind of nail that because your foundation's gonna take you a while to really hone those in. But in the background, like Josh has been mentioning too, like have that sketchbook where you're really exploring like what you like. I think as a high school, you should be really discovering like who you are, what your interests are, and kind of using that as a jumping point to, go into a specialized field. Like if you like characters, like you solve that through doing the sketching. Like it's kind of
Yeah.
like the personal work, like the internal work that you need to do, the self-actualization part, I think is huge as a high schooler. Like really knowing who you are and what you like, I think is pretty important.
Yeah, I would, I kind of said it jokingly, like draw a lot, but that literally is it. Because
Hmm.
when Taylor and I are saying like, discover what you like, you can't just do that by self-reflecting for 30 minutes. Like an artist does that by drawing a lot. If you by sketching and seeing like, oh, I like this shape. I repeat this shape over and over again. That means I like that shape, and then you'll be able to make that decision faster, more naturally, um, just through the practice. How it happened practically in my life and in high school, obviously I didn't have advice, let's say, like you gotta hone your taste. I was just drawing a lot, and I was always stubborn about drawing what I wanted to draw. So that kind of happened naturally. And then in college, kind of what Taylor was saying was like that self-actualization. And it's continuous, but that's where, I really got to start thinking deep about what I liked. And so our advice to you is like, get a leg up and start that now, just draw a lot, and also kind of captain yourself and be discerning about what you really enjoy about drawing. But you are going to have to just, put the pen to the page a lot. So,
Yeah, mileage
Yeah.
is key.
That makes a lot of sense. It's very important to get like the fundamental skills in, of course, and not damper your creativity at the same time is a little bit of a hard balance to achieve, but is so important. And yeah, just constantly practicing, constantly develop, kind of honing your tastes is so crazy important. I wish I knew that in high school. Okay, so this is a question for parents. So how can parents support their children's aspiration to be in concept art, especially in balancing art practice with academic responsibilities?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah, it's a little hard.
Yeah, you got to support them. I mean, um, yeah, like allow them to take the classes outside of school. Do the research and figure out there's so many resources out there that you can hand off to your kids to inspire them. Um, like what you guys are doing with your guys' school, that would be huge for me if I was in high school, having an after school program where, I could go and practice and have an instructor to help me, even getting a mentor, right? Like we had a friend, Night Zhang, who's just an amazing character artist, and her parents were super supportive, um, you know, allowing her to learn from actual masters at a young age. So even doing mentorships is super helpful. For example, I'm doing mentorships with high school students and getting them prepped for their college apps for different types of art schools. So you can find someone like that to help the one-on-one thing I think is super, super helpful for kids. That's just my
I'm,
take though.
I'm glad you brought up night because, if
Hmm.
you're taking those art classes at a younger age, that means the parents kind of discerned that she was an artist and led her in that, and that's awesome. And personally, from my experience, my mom obviously wasn't happy about me saying I want to drop out of art school, right? But just over time, she could see that I was serious. I wasn't just dropping out because, it was hard. I actually I had that passion, and I think she saw that, and then she eventually trusted me with that decision, which was awesome. It's super motivating to have your parents back you and believe in you in that sense, and also it just relieves you from, you know, the opposite of like having to clash about, the direction of your life. So yeah, super helpful is just that supportiveness.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's so crucial for parents to kind of embrace their kids' passions and career options and be their rock, like the person supporting them and to lift them up, especially when times are a little bit harder. It's so important to have that support system backing you up. So the last questions, the final one for right now before we take our short break is this one is for the college students listening is for high school seniors or for kind of freshmen in college, considering concept art, how important are internships? And do you have any tips for the students to help prepare them, to help them prepare for the internships? Sorry.
Yeah, personally, I in college I never took an internship, honestly.
Me
But
neither.
I think they can be super helpful, right? Because what that does is it just gives you work experience and it gets you on a level playing field with other professionals, right? But I guess the way that Josh and I kind of worked around that was we just made our own game. We kind of consulted people who were artists. We kind of found our own way, right? So I guess like preparing for those internships, going back to like what I was saying before, is like knowing specifically where you want to go, right? Do you want to work at DreamWorks or do you want to work at Riot? Do you want to work at Toro Rock? Those three studios are completely different in their expectations and the type of work that they're doing, right? So you got to look at the artists that are working there, go on ArtStation, see what types of like pieces are in their portfolios and see if you can digest that and maybe find a way to cater your portfolio to be a little bit similar, right? I think that's a good route to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Kind of researching ahead of applying
Hmm.
the different industry, what their standards are, what kind of trends they're looking for could probably be very helpful in looking for those different job applications or even those internships.
Hmm.
All right, so the good news is we got through a large chunk of questions. So right now we're going to take our short break. We're taking this break to look at the questions that the audience gave us, and we're going to compile all of those audience questions, and we're going to go ahead and order them so that we can go ahead and ask our guests. So feel free to get some water, get up and stretch. I know it's been an hour, so we will be right back. But before I'm going to go ahead and talk, our guests can, of course, take their break if they'd like. I'm just going to discuss the upcoming webinars real quick. So in November, we are going to be going over a student who was in CalColor, and they have graduated to the Rhode Island School of Design, which is a very prestigious school, especially in the States. It's been compared to the Harvard of art schools, so pretty important stuff. We're going to be interviewing that student and her counselor to see what they did to get accepted in the school, see if they have any tips that they can trade with future students looking to get into other prestigious art schools. So that's going to be in November. But in December, we're also going to have another seminar where we're going over freelance work. So freelance is a little more of a flexible career path for artists or artists who are looking to get their foot in the door in the industry. Freelance is always a wonderful option. We're going to get our freelancers and we're going to kind of pick their brain on some tips that they can give us to get in that industry. And the last is going to be in January. Well, it's not going to be the last, but for this year in January, we are going to be talking to some game development professionals. So if you love game development or video games in general, you're going to love that seminar. But those are the three that we have planned. And of course, you can always keep updated on the development on the seminars, see what dates they're coming out, who our guests are going to be, what questions we might ask them. You are more than welcome to keep in our community and we will update you on that. All right, and if you have any questions for us at CalColor specifically, here are the QR codes to all of our different accounts. So we have our WeChat and our Instagram and our YouTube here. Feel free to get in contact. There's all of our contact information. If you're a student looking for classes, we'd love to talk to you. Or if you just have questions about art in general or any industry practices, we'd love to get in touch. But you can take a moment. Yes. And of course, we want to give the biggest thank you to our amazing guests. They really took time out of their super busy schedules to talk to us today. So Josh and Taylor, we would love if you guys, the audience, would please follow their Instagram and kind of share the love. These are two really well-established professionals in their industry. So yeah, and we're so grateful to have them be on our webinar. So thank you guys so much. And I'll give thanks again at the end, but kind of a middle thank you here. All right, and we will take our break now. So thank you guys for your patience. We're just gonna assemble those questions. So like I said, stretch a little bit, get a drink of water, and we will be right back. All right, so we can go ahead and we're going to get started with the Q&A questions. So I hope you guys stretched a little bit. All right, so these are questions straight from the audience. So I'm just gonna go from the top to bottom here. All right, so a question from Emily is, do you think AI will have a noticeable impact or will change the nature of your job in the future?
Yeah, I think it's definitely going to change things. Just like photo bashing changed things for concept art, if you guys are familiar with that. The use of photo manipulation, 3D tools, but there are still artists that are just drawing and painting, and at the core of it, that's kind of what concept design is. It's how do you how do you tell a story with just shapes and a two-dimensional surface is kind of what it comes down to. Um, I think AI is, yeah, it's going to be a huge part in a lot of the design world. I mean, you have companies like Disney, I think they just announced that they're going to be pushing forward with some sort of AI in their own studios. Whether or not that's actually like a tool that's going to be used forever in the future, or if it's just an R&D project they're working on, who knows? I've experimented with AI a bit, but for my own personal work, I can't really find a great use for it yet. There's still so much I have to do to make the image in AI actually, turn out the way that I want it to in my mind. Um, yeah, that's a tough one. AI discussions, it's pretty difficult, but it is going to be useful for some people, that's for sure.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, for
it's
sure.
yeah, again, I think it's just gonna place the emphasis on artists, concept artists, to really focus on their creativity. AI art's gonna probably, again, as Taylor was saying, like get rid of a lot of the mundane stuff. But then again, if you want to develop your creativity and your taste, especially if you're a visual artist, you have to do that through drawing, right? So um, it's a it's kind of it's a funny thing.
Right, I totally understand. Also, I'd like to take this moment to thank Josh for doing the honors of sketching in front of us while we ask these questions. It really is a treat getting to watch him work. And I love the Happy
Yeah.
Halloween up at the top, full of monsters, perfect for the season. So thank you.
Yeah, I
They all
thought
look
that was a
great.
little appropriate. Yeah. So
All
just
Just
right.
cool.
monsters.
This looks great. So, all right. So let's see. Aria asked, does concept art only apply for game design or animation, or do you guys know any other industries that kind of use concept art?
Yeah, there's like I mentioned before, I know a guy that was working on StarCraft that's doing stuff for SpaceX right now. I have another buddy who's working at Rivian, which is a car company, and they have their own concept artists as well. So um, it's one of those things where I think concept design or just design in general is actually expanding into all industries, like especially with the way that things are being fabricated now. I mean, everything you see that's man-made had to be designed by someone at a certain point, right? So it's creeping into all industries, and like I said, with manufacturing becoming so easy, ideas are able to manifest in reality a lot quicker than they were back in the day, where you used to have um, just basic tools to manufacture stuff. Now you can 3D print, you can do advanced resin kits. Like there's so many different options now for concept designers to actually play a part in the actual industry, like real industries where you're making tangible stuff and not just video games or entertainment, right? And that's what gets me excited as an artist. Like that's kind of where my focus has been, is actually meeting more people in those types of industries and doing more practical design stuff that's more functional, that can actually work in the real world. So um, yeah, it's growing in my opinion from what I've seen.
I've if you guys know the fighting game Tekken, Nike and the studio did a collab, and their characters are wearing some pretty cool Jordans. And I'm excited
Mm.
about that. I'd love to design some shoes, and affect, the actual fashion industry. So yeah, I really am excited for that because it's growing and expanding so much. So
Perfect. Oh yeah, I'm sure there's a ton of uses. So a lot of different marketing as well. Like everything's so visual. Is that yeah? That's the wonderful thing about art industry as a whole is everything's visible. I can't talk. Visual. Everything has to kind
It's
of
okay.
grab our attention and be kind of unique. So yeah, that's totally accurate. So Emily Yen asks. Two questions actually. How many hours a day do you work? So, on any given day, how many hours do you work? And how do you continue to improve your skills at drawing and painting? What feedback tool do you use?
Yeah, right now, I used it was at a point where I was working sometimes 100-hour work weeks, but I've definitely scaled down, and trying to get more balance personally. Like some days I'll even just do 2 hours of work for a certain brief, but that's all contingent on what type of project I'm on. Also, that's just one project I'll be working 2 hours for. Like I teach as well and have other things going on, but um, again, that comes down to your skill level as well. Like you can really minimize the amount of time you're working on stuff if you actually spend more time to bolster up your skills. Like I do think that an investment in skills allows you to have more time freedom because you end up making quicker decisions. Um, you get to the point a lot quicker. So compounding those skills is going to allow you to have more free time, or you know, um, you could take on more clients or more work. You could stack up, um, and that's just what I've experienced. So
yeah, it's the funny thing is like when you start working and you want more free time, then that just means that you worked a lot harder in the past to develop those skill sets that let you get the job done faster. So at my current job, my schedule is pretty flexible actually, because I like to come up with ideas. That's what I do, and that's kind of what the job is. So if you can produce a ton of ideas fairly quickly, then you don't necessarily need to work a 40-hour work week, right? So, but again, that said, that if you want to continue to get better, then you're just always gonna be again with joy, like you're gonna be working a lot. So yeah, and then how to get better is just I'm sorry for my simplistic answer, but you really just keep drawing and keep pushing yourself with the right priorities in mind, right? So
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. So, Emily also asks, how can you improve your creativity? It's a little bit of a harder one.
well, here's a practical answer. Like here I'll show you thumbnails that I do. So this is a scan of
awesome.
my actual sketchbook that's pretty small. So these drawings are like the size of a quarter, right? That's why they're called thumbnails. Um, Obviously, honing your creativity is like this lofty question, but thinking about it logically as a concept artist, if our job is to produce tons of different ideas and iterations, draw your ideas smaller so you can produce more and practice more of just making those decisions at a much more rapid pace than, if you're trying to kind of like what I'm doing now, like bigger drawings, you see I'm more focusing here on like, oh, how does this arm work? And is it clear if it's kind of behind these spikes coming out of the elbow here? These are not really big picture design problems that I would be solved. Whoops, I don't know what that is. What is that? Get on my screen. Okay. Well, anyways, okay,
There you
it's
go.
gone. Thank you. Like yeah, minimize the scale that you're working at if you want to get better at design. do thumbnails so you can see the big picture and not worry about details that don't matter at the phase or what kind of, again, if you want to focus on that creativity, think about design and the overall picture and making things cohesive and writing notes versus if you want to get better at your fundamentals, go to figure drawing, draw bigger and train that. So that's why art's hard. You kind of got to do both of those things.
It is super tricky,
Yeah.
super tricky, but yes, definitely worth it. So Mina actually has two questions. How do you make the perfect balance for a good character design that isn't too boring, but not too detailed? And also, what size sketchbook is best?
It's a perfect question for Josh.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of your taste. I love small sketchbooks because again, I love thumbnailing, right? So like I don't like pocket-sized sketchbooks. I like something that you can fit in a small bag. I think A4 is like I don't get A4 specifically, but something around that range. And again, the more important question about the character, I think there's something huge about I'm going to say contradictory things. So in the beginning, if you want to design an interesting character, you should just try to exaggerate as much as possible and just go crazy, right? Because a lot of students will try to make something that works and then it does work and then it's boring, right? So and then you kind of have to climb this uphill battle of like, okay, this thing's solid, but it's not giving me that emotional impact that I want. Go crazy from the get-go. And then if it's too crazy, then it's so much easier to tone that down and subtract, right? Um, and yeah, I would not underestimate simplicity. I think simple characters are most of the time like the most impactful. Um, so yeah, I don't know if Taylor has anything to add to that, but
Yeah, not
No,
really. I
that
think
made a lot of sense.
yeah, that's pretty well said.
go
Yes.
crazy, yeah, go crazy, and then you can refine and
Yeah, you can always pull things back. That's what I've heard. Like you always want to push things, and especially as a concept artist, you're delivering multiple things usually. So have one crazy idea where you're just pushing it to, as far as you can go, and an art director will tell you to ring things back in. But yeah, you don't want to keep things stale and boring and just safe. You want to push.
yeah, yeah, much better approach.
Hmm.
And
All
it's a
right.
lot faster.
So, Aria, this might be referring back to the slides where we were showing some of your guys' more polished professional work, because it was asked at around 8 o'clock. So, Aria asked, in what level in these work are you showing now? So I'm guessing in the level of like seniority or how many years you've kind of been developing your craft in concept art, I would imagine.
Hmm. That was the art that I think we both well, the art that I was showing was right after I dropped out of I mean not high school, college. Um
High school dropout.
yeah, high school. Yeah, I dropped out of college and as I said, I took a year to kind of finish my education. And so that was entry level for me, right? But again, as I said, that doesn't necessarily mean that's entry level work. That's why I'm always saying take your time to develop your portfolio so that when you're entering the industry, your work's not at entry level or it's you got a little bit of an edge there. So I don't want to say you have to hit that quality right out of college or you're never gonna make it, right? You really got to take your time. So
Perfect. That makes sense. And we have one last question from our audience here. I believe it's last. We'll see. I'm pretty sure. But what is the reason why you chose concept art since there are so many other types of art such as graphic design, UX design, etc.?
Yeah, for me, it's ultimate creativity. I'd be bored designing someone else's idea. I think it's also it kind of lends to like our personalities, I believe. Like I think Josh and I both try to maximize for freedom. And concept art kind of allows you to do that because you're practically just going wild with your ideas and seeing what happens. To me, that's why I kind of ended up in concept design. Plus, as a kid, I was always coming up with random ideas and just blurting them out to my parents, and like, oh, that's like interesting. So I think as a child, it was just kind of ingrained in me just to be creative and just kind of go off on tangents and have a bunch of ideas. Um, I remember like when we were in college, like we would just jam in our sketchbooks and we would just throw out hypotheticals, like what if, like that was always a thing, like what if like something was this way, or like, oh, that was like really cool what we saw. What if we twisted it around a little bit and made it a little bit more like novel and new? Um, I think that's kind of one of the reasons why I got slotted as a concept artist, and I'm still doing it now.
Yeah, same here, man. Like you mentioned the freedom as an artist, like I think it's just the best medium to like explore with just such a wide variety and then also depth, like
Hmm.
because gamers get nerdy, so like and
Yeah.
as a creative, that's awesome because that just enlivens the exploration, like because people do care about lore and stuff like that. And video games has always been that medium where I get to explore literally everything, kind of more than everything, because you get to explore worlds that don't exist and or like ancient ruins or sci-fi like spaceships and stuff, and it's just so much fun, right? So that's the very simple answer. It's just I don't know if you can come up with a more fun job. If you're an artist and you love to draw, it's the best. It's a dream job. So
That makes total sense. Yeah, it's such a fun, creative field. So I would definitely say follow your heart first on what you would love, then work hard and also kind of research it a little bit. But yeah, definitely. Yeah. So we're going to kind of go into our conclusions here. Our wonderful artists probably have places to be. So we are going to go ahead and wrap things up here. So real quick, I would love to thank Josh and Taylor again. Again, like these two amazing artists really did take time out of their very busy schedules to um, uh, indulge us and kind of give their tips and tricks in the industry, but not only their tips and tricks in the industry, but as artists at heart. So we really appreciate you guys taking your time to join us. So again, you guys, in my audience, I would really appreciate, we at CalColor really appreciate if you give Taylor and Josh a follow on their Instagram, check out their artwork. They are really amazing. So yes, definitely do that. So thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it. If you guys want to look at this recording, we did record this meeting here. So if you had to leave halfway, you're more than welcome to watch it on our YouTube channel. So feel free to do that. And of course, if you have any questions for us at CalColor, we have all these wonderful QR codes you can choose from. You feel free to reach out here. And of course, there's our phone number and email on our website and everything. So yeah, feel free. We'd love to hear from you.
well, I will say, well, first of all, thank you, Caitlin, for hosting and Alvin. Um, and then also, if you do check out the Instagram, and you do want to reach out, I'd say reach out to the people here at CalColor because I'm not on social media anymore. So I love a follow, but it's not gonna matter to me. But yeah, if you have more questions and you do want to connect, maybe speak to one of your instructors and get connected through there.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much. So now we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. ending it just on time. Wonderful. We got to
Perfect.
go through a lot of the very important questions. So one more time, a huge thank you to our guests. And I hope you all in the audience and our wonderful guests included, you all have a wonderful night. And we hope to see you around sometime.
Cool.
Thank
Thanks,
you guys
guys.
for having us.
Thank you so much. All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Cool. Good night.
Thank you.